Alright guys, so this is going to be my review of Planet of the Apes, The Long War. Planet of the Apes, The Long War. This is the first volume of the comic book series from Boom Studios. In trade, it's $9.99, so this is not expensive at all in the US. It's only like $10 total. So, yeah, more or less, for those who don't know about the Planet of the Apes Boom Studios comics, they're actually based, I mean, yeah, they came out when Rise of the Planet of the Apes was coming out, but what's different about this is that this continuity is actually based off of the 1968 movie franchise. It's based off of that continuity. So, yeah, it's more or less extended universe. Think of this Planet of the Apes comic book series, it's supposed to be like Star Wars Legacy, if you want to look at it at that standpoint. But yeah, as you guys know, I'm a huge fan of the 1968 Planet of the Apes movies. They're one of my favorite movie franchises. They're up there with me. They're my second favorite universe to look at in terms of movie franchises that have their own universes. They're my second. Planet of the Apes is my second favorite, only to Star Wars, and you know the other ones, if you're wondering, is the Halo universe. I find that kind of interesting, even though I don't play the games anymore. I find the Halo universe, like the comics and the novels, really interesting. Same thing with the StarCraft universe, but anyway, I'm really getting off track. Anyway, this takes place 1,300 years before Taylor, as you guys know, Charlton Heston's character, Taylor, crash lands on the world of the apes. This takes place 1,300 years before that. This story is collects the first 4 issues, and it's a 4-part story where we have a character known as the Lawgiver. The Lawgiver is trying to, you know, make peace between apes and man. During this time period, like 1,300 years ago, man and apes, during, you know, after Caesar's passing a long time ago, Caesar's kind of treated like a god in this universe. So, anyway, what happens is that the Lawgiver, and the other thing about this comic book is that this thing hits the ground running. Like, there's no building up to this story. It just hits the ground running of what goes on. A human assassin actually comes out of nowhere and murders the Lawgiver with a machine gun. Now, why is that important? Because at this time period, apes were only allowed to carry guns. Now, their weaponry is based off of World War I weapons, like bolt-action rifles or single-shot rifles, or even Vickers machine gun, or even sometimes a Gatling gun. They even use blimps as airships. So, yeah, that technology, and it's like it's basically a machine gun from like you would see nowadays that soldiers would use nowadays, but it's known as primitive and forbidden weapons. So the Lawgiver is killed, and his granddaughter, Ayla becomes the new, like, voice. She becomes the new leader, and she's grief-stricken and becomes, you know, when she becomes leader of these groups, she decided that, yeah, a human killed him, and I'm going to find out who did it. Now, what's interesting about this, about what happens before, and remember, this is before a time, if you've ever seen, for those who have ever seen the Planet of the Apes movies, where I'm talking of the 60s movies, of course, where the humans are like these wild animals who can't talk. They're kind of like cavemen in some ways, and the apes are the dominant species. At this time period, humans are actually capable of speech and actually trying to live among apes. While apes are the dominant species, humans are kind of like this. They're the minority, but they have their own district, and they have a district called Southtown, but the apes call it Skintown. So, and the leader, the mayor of that town is called Sullivan. Sullivan is a woman, pregnant woman, mind you, who grew up with Ayla, and, you know, the Lawgiver was kind of like her grandfather. She considered him her grandfather as well. He basically raised them both, and when she finds out that the assassin murdered the Lawgiver, she's grief-stricken, but Ayla basically accuses them all of doing this. So she says, you don't get to decide. Soon I'm going to amass an army to tear down Skintown and find this assassin. We're also introduced to another character called Baco. Baco is this human who was a survivor of this town called Delphi. Now, another thing about Delphi is that it was the city, and that's all we know. It was a city that was a human holdout, and the apes ransacked it. Like, something bad happened. We don't know what, but something happened at Delphi. That it was a massacre, but we don't know what happened to that. Baco is very, he's very headstrong, and he hates the apes, and he has a daughter named Chaika. Chaika is a mute, not by, like, she's born a mute. She's actually part of this group called the Silent Church. And here's the part that makes me so happy. The Silent Church is a prelude to the Psychics in the second movie, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, where these superpowered beings these super mental humans who have these amazing mental abilities like illusions, telepathy, and all these other psychic abilities, they worship a bomb. So these guys, the Silent Church, is basically a prelude to that. And Chaka is a part of that church. She basically signs everything. And she's kind of this young and rebellious character, and she plays a major role in this story arc. Especially what she does at the end. What she does at the end just sets up for the next volume, which will not be until May of this year, which I have to wait like a few more months until the next volume, The Devil's Pawn, comes out. Damn it. But anyway, another character introduced in here is Nyx. Nyx is a albino gorilla who was in charge of the attack on Delphi. He was known as the Butcher of the East to the humans. Now, what's cool about Nyx is that unlike a lot of the apes who consider, humans are nothing more than just a bunch of wild animals, they don't need our rights, they're just the minority, we're the superior being, Nyx considers humans as a real threat. Remember, guys, in this time period, humans are still capable of speech and actually wield weapons. Nyx knows this. He doesn't take humans for granted. He knows they're dangerous. He fought up against. He challenged them. He battled them, and he led a group called the White Troop. The White Troop are these, supreme warriors of gorillas. And Nyx is actually, even though he's here's another cool thing about what I love about this comic book. Like the Planet of the Apes movies, there's no real villain. Well, you see the evil on two sides of the coin. Throughout the entire Apes movies, you kind of see that all the characters have their own points, Like, when you're trying to root for the humans, you're like, oh yeah, humans do some messed up shit too. That's how we kind of got the apes in charge of us. Yeah, humans are kind of dicks in this series too. And then you look at the apes, and you're like, oh yeah, apes are bastards too. So there's no real villain. It always shows two sides of the coin. That's what I love. Like, Nyx is a perfect example of this. Nyx was actually... He was a friend to the lawgiver, even though he was locked up. He was imprisoned. He was imprisoned by the lawgiver, even though he was his best friend. But he had a reason behind it. He's like, yeah, I did some messed up shit at Delphi, and I deserve to be in here. So when Ayla releases him, he actually says, yeah, let me rebuild the White Troop, let me pick my own men, and I'll serve only you. I'm not going to take orders from anyone but you, Ayla, for, in honor of your grandfather. And Nyx is a badass in here. He's throwing people around. He actually punches one of his soldiers when he asks him, do you think humans are better than apes? Do you think apes are better than humans? And he's like, no, sir, I think they're a bunch of filthy maggots. And he punches him and he says, that's what's going to get you killed. That's what's going. Humans are when you take humans for granted and don't think they're a threat, you're going to get your ass killed. So I think that's very cool about that this guy, that the author in here, that the writer in here, who his name is Daryl Gregory. He was a co-writer in Dracula: The Company of Monsters, another Boom Studios book that I want to get, and the artwork was done by Carlos Magno, who did Transformers: Tales of the Fallen, which was a comic book based off of the Michael Bay movies. But the artwork in here is really good. Carlos Magno's artwork is really good. There are so many... there is such great dialogue in here as well. there's actually a lot of good a lot of good scenes where Nix is actually rallying his men when he's recreating the White Troop. He basically says, "Yeah, you guys gotta follow me. I'll make sure you guys are the best warriors. I only wanted you guys," and they're all just shouting, "Nix, Nix, Nix." So I think he's pretty cool. And Sullivan, for a pregnant woman, she kicks a lot of ass in here. And we also have a really good scene at the end of Chapter 2 of the second issue, where Nix is leading the White Troop on horseback, and all I could think of is that theme in the 60s movies where the apes are hunting the humans in the fields, where they're going dur, 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 dur. You know that theme if you've ever seen the movies. There is a lot of political ideas in here. There is so much in here, and there's actually a lot of good like I said, a lot of good dialogue. There's a great scene. There's a lot of great scenes where Ayla actually discovers the assassin, who I'm not going to name because I don't want to spoil it. And it really packs a lot in for 4 issues in one book. I got to give Boom Studios a lot of credit for that. But yeah, the only other bonus content in here in this trade back, like I said, it's only $10, so it's really easy, is the cover artwork and alternate cover artwork, which is actually, the cover artwork is really good. I really love the other cover artwork in here. So yeah, this was I really love this. I really love this book. I'm glad it's taking continuity from the Planet of the Apes books. I mean, from the 60s movies. I really want to keep up with more of this. This is a really fun book. Really cheap, too. I don't know how much the second volume is going to be. Because it's always with Boom, they always suck you in with a $10 first trade. And then they kind of amp up the price to $16.99 or $17.99. So, I don't know. But all in all, I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5. Great start to a series. Really digs deeper into the Planet of the Apes lore, especially the 60s series. And, yeah, what more can I say about it? Other than that, if you're a Planet of the Apes fan, get this book. Later.